Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Streaming Card Consciousness. As always, I'm joined by my friend, my brother up in the Panhandle, Greg Smith, and today we're also special guests from Society of American Baseball Research, otherwise known as SABR, writers and contributors and organizers on that site, RJ Lesch and Jason Schwartz. So how are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Doing well. Good to be here. Thank you.
Doing well here, sunny Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. So, and Mark, I'm doing good as always. We get Tua back today, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
hopefully,
you can lose it to That's good.
Yeah.
We're gonna do our cards of the week. That
Absolutely.
general format. We do our cards of the week, and I think RJ was going to go first with his cards of the week this week.
Well, this was a good week for me. I got cards that were significant for two of my collecting goals. One of them is going to come up when we talk about the SABR Jefferson Burdick Award, this book here. But part of that goal is the Ted Williams 1955 Topps, which I was able to. It's an SGC1, but it looks really good, and I was happy about it. It was affordable, and affordable is part of my personal collection goals. So the other one that came up is I'm trying to collect White Sox team sets. I don't know why after this year, but if you can't root for them when they're bad, you can't root for them when they're good either. So, but this week in the mail came 3 of the cards from the 1967 set, some of the high numbers, including the Tommy John, which I've been chasing for about 2 years. And this means that I have a Topps White Sox run going, not counting the 1975 minis, but from 1964 to 1988, so quarter of a century there. So,
no, those were the last 3 that you needed for the entire run.
For the entire run, I had the other years, but the '67 Tommy John was a short print, and it was for 609.
The legendary 609. That's a tough one, man. Well, good.
Yeah, I went to National for the first time this year in Cleveland and was asking everybody if they had one, and nobody had one. So
really, you couldn't find it. You couldn't find one at the National. Wow, that's something.
And but got this one on one of the Facebook groups. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. That's quite an accomplishment. All that 19. You said 63 through 88.
64. The 63 is going to be tough because you've got the Al Weiss rookie card.
Oh yeah,
which, there's
Ken McMullen. Yeah. Well, congratulations, RJ. Those are very cool cards of the week. And that I know, being a Yaz collector myself, anytime I'll never finish that, but anytime you can find something new that you don't have, it's a pretty good feeling. So good on you for getting those. Congratulations. Now, Jason, what do you have for your cards this week?
Yeah, good deal. I brought a few things. So Greg, in honor of the Dodgers being in the World Series, right? That's my team, if folks couldn't tell. But I'm going to lead off with a 1939 play ball, a Van Lingle Mungo. So these are, I'll admit, unless you really know your 1930s baseball players, for most of them, you look at the front and you don't know who it is because it doesn't have their name. And a lot of the poses are very similar to this. But the reason it's unique and the reason I added it to my collection, it could be a little hard to tell, but it's a salesman sample, right? So it's got, red stamped on the back to the retailer that these are fun cards to sell for a penny, with gum and all that kind of stuff. So I hadn't had any salesman samples. I have most of the 39 play ball set as far as Dodgers are concerned. So that's something I do with the much older sets, is I focus on just the Dodgers. And a nice thing for, pre-1947 is there generally isn't anybody ridiculous that's going to set you back, a house down payment. So simple enough. So that's one.
Nice
I'll
card.
show another. This has some sentimental value and a little bit of ties to the LA area where I grew up. This is one, if you haven't seen before, I won't be shocked. It's a 1913 Z-Nut of a PCL pitching legend named Spider Baum, B-A-U-M. Now, the reason I picked it up, I lost my dad in 2020, and his favorite place in the world was Venice Beach. Not Venice, Florida, right? To be clear here, but Venice, California. And he literally went there every day for like the last 40, 50 years of his life. And so at any rate, this is from the Pacific Coast League when a team called the Vernon Tigers spent 2 years playing in Venice. And alphabetically on TCDB, that doesn't necessarily carry meaning, but alphabetically, this is the first 1913 Vernon Tiger, or pardon me, Venice Tiger. Venice Tiger. What am I talking about? So I could call this Venice's rookie card. Venice, California's rookie card, 1913 Spider Bomb from the Z-Nut, black, blank back. So okay, but third one I brought. Again, a little bit homage to the Dodgers, but honoring the legend Fernando Valenzuela. If you can see this, and if you're like, what's that from? This is actually a homemade. A buddy of mine named Andy has a little outfit he put together called Milberg Trading Cards. He makes customs. And if you send him I don't know if he still does it, but back in the day, if you sent him a ticket stub from a game you were at, he would memorialize it with a card. And so 1985, I went to see Dwight Gooden face Fernando Valenzuela.
Oh, wow.
Right? It was late season, September 6th, 1985. Sent Andy the ticket, and he made this really dope card with, you can see obviously the two pitchers, but even the scoreboard replicates the game information. That was a game that was scoreless until the 13th inning, and
Wow.
Darryl Strawberry won it with a double. So those are my cards of the week.
Mark, you got any comments on those at all?
I do have some comments. I love the custom cards. I'm a big fan of custom cards. In fact, I see that Jackie, is that a Jose Tellier?
Oh my gosh, you've got a great eye. Yeah,
one of
it's
my
like
BFFs.
shaving. I never know
So I
which
have
way to
that
turn.
as
But
well. That is a Jose Tellier original, and she also makes amazing baseball cards. And I've showed them on the show numerous times. I showed the Jackie, and I got the Ted Williams, and I got the Hank Aaron, and so I love
know your
custom
stuff.
cards. And Jose, she's amazing.
Yep.
How I got that Jackie was I swapped her a replica of Old War Memorial Stadium in Buffalo that I had got when I was a kid. And as you know, Jose is a huge fan of The Natural, and that's where they filmed The Natural. So I had a War Memorial Stadium, and I shipped that to her up in Montreal, and she sent me the Jackie. And she's amazing. So people watching the show, Jose Tellier, check her out. She has an Etsy store, and Jason has impeccable taste if he has her work.
I appreciate it. I'll tell you with mine, as soon as I saw that she made that, I was like, oh, I have to get one. And so, I'm checking in and I was like, how much is it? And then, do you ship to the US and all this stuff? And then she's like, well, where are you? So I said, Chicago. And she said, oh, I'm going to be there next week for something or other. I think it was just personal travel. So she's like, yeah, if you want to save on shipping, I'll just hand deliver. So I actually met her in person. And got the Jackie that way. So I saved a little dough, right? Local pickup on the Jackie, but I also got to meet her.
I appreciate her work. It's so unique, right? What do they call it? Anglophones or whatever, a French Canadian, and her work with the Negro Leagues, and it's just amazing, to see that. And her art is ridiculous. So just ridiculous.
Agreed.
Very, very cool. Van Lingle Mungo, to me, that's a name I think I remember from the Great American Baseball Card Collecting, Flipping, Trading book. And the other guy, the Venice, I live by Fort Walton Beach, and we had a minor league team for 2 years in 1960 and 61, which blows my mind because there's like 7,000 people there. But I never had any clue that Venice had a minor league team. So that's pretty cool. Venice, California. Venice Beach.
Yeah, when I was growing up there, I had no idea. And I was obsessed with cards. I mean, I probably could have picked that card up for $1 when I was a kid, I'm that old. But it was kind of funny. It was something I was learning about after my dad passed away. And then I was like, wait, hold on, there's cards, so I got one kind of, in his memory.
And that Gooden Valenzuela card, rest in peace, Fernando, by the way. That card that year to have, Dwight Gooden was a meteor that year. I was in St. Pete when the Mets were training there, And I remember in 85, after the 84 debut that he had, 85, man, Dwight Gooden was baseball. And
Exactly
to see
right.
him that year, after the year he had, I think he was 24-3 that year. That's a really cool card to have too. And for him to battle Fernando for however many innings they both pitched scoreless, I bet that was something to watch. So very cool. Very cool.
The atmosphere was absolutely electric in the ballpark. Fernando threw 11 scoreless innings, and Doc went 9. Doc got,
unfortunately, you don't see that anymore. Not even close. But yeah, I can imagine that was a great game to go to. So those are great cards of the week. Those are
fantastic.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so I've got 2. I'm going to go ahead and do mine. Mine are just basic stuff I've already shown on the page, but I got 2 Yaz slabs in. So this is number 89. It's the 83 Drakes. And I'm doing RJ, I think you might know, but Jason, I collect Yastrzemski SGC slabs. So this is number 89. And then this is number 90. And it's a 5, whatever. But, it was the cost of grading and to have those. I'm shooting for 100. I don't think I'll get there by the end of the year because I'm having trouble finding them. But I'm going to send some. I think Mark and I are going to do a joint sub to SGC here in a week or 2. So I might just pick some out and send them down myself and see how that goes. So those are my cards of the week. Mine are just – run of the mill stuff. You guys have some really cool stuff so far.
Mark, I was just going to say that 71 Yaz greatest moments that you showed on a previous one. Holy cow, though, man! That buys you cred for like 5 years. 5 years going. You could just flash 81 Donruss from here on out, and you're still a legend.
Right. Yeah, I got that from somebody on Facebook myself, and it's. I don't think people understand how actually rare those are. You can't find them anywhere.
Most people have never seen them.
Right. Yeah, it's in there. The black borders with the black. It looks amazing to me. So those are mine. But yeah, I appreciate that. For people who know what those greatest moment cards are, it's that's one of my top 5 Yaz that I own. So, and I got one. I have a 1967 Yastrzemski for Mayor card that I think is really cool. So I'm gonna have to maybe break that out on the show. I don't know if I ever have or not, but. Thank you for noticing that. Now, Mark, what do you have? You're showing me all this shiny stuff, man. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, no, I'm actually the shiny. That was just a reference about that guy. But so in honor of RJ and Jason being here, people that watch the show know I'm an English teacher, history teacher. So to me, literature and the arts are far more interesting and entertaining than cardboard. So I actually brought this in from my room. I got to put it back in the room 6 Monday, but this has been there since I've been there. And it's Jim Brosnan auto from Beckett. It's historic autographs. So Jim Brosnan, that is always in my classroom. And so then we have a 59 Jim Brosnan and tremendous book. So not a card, but the book, The Long Season, first edition. So, just kind of commemorating and paying tribute to you two that are joining the show that, is somewhat of a writer myself. And I know Greg is as well. We appreciate the art of the written word, and it's really disappearing today. So props to you guys, definitely.
I don't want to maybe say anything I shouldn't, but I believe RJ may have a book coming out.
Oh, excellent.
I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said it.
No.
It's not coming out, but it's in the process of we're researching it and writing it. But my friend and collaborator Richard Smiley and we're both White Sox fans, and we're working on a biography of Luke Appling, the Hall of Fame shortstop from the 30s and 40s. And nobody's done a book-length biography of him before, so we're having a lot of fun with that. So
that's very cool.
That home run in that old timers game in Washington.
That's the thing everybody remembers. But he had a fantastic playing career too. That goes unappreciated because the White Sox, weren't a World Series team in those days. But some things never change. But we've had some high points since then. But he was a fantastic player. I think one of the reasons he hasn't gotten a lot of attention is because he wasn't a controversial guy. You know,
All right.
his wife were married for 62 years. Talking to his daughter a year ago, he just seemed like an ordinary, stable kind of guy. And if he maybe gotten into fights with umpires or something like that more often, everyone would know him. But no, he was just a regular kind of guy with an interesting playing career, and he's definitely been fun to research.
Now he 15 points for anybody who can tell me who threw him that pitch in that Old Timers game.
Is that Spahn?
Yeah, it was Warren Spahn.
Yeah.
He got it, man. I remember watching that as a kid. That was a big deal back then. And Luke Appling, what is he, 76 when he hit that home run? That's crazy. Now, did he have a son that played too?
His son, I think, played minor league ball. I don't think he got into the majors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have my autographed Luke Appling card right here. So
nice.
Sits over my desk, blessing my work. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I met him a few times. Back in my previous life, running golf course, as they used to have tournaments at our golf course, alumni tournaments, and I was able to hang out with him for a while. Yeah, he was a good dude. I got some autograph stuff from him.
From Luke Appling?
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
That's what got me into autographs was when I was at the golf course and they'd come in and have their tournaments there, and I have pretty extensive Hall of Fame autograph collection.
That's
I need
great.
to pick your brain about that at some point.
Learn something new today, Greg. You guys are great, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
They're opening up the deep dive, the closet of Ford.
Well, let's talk a little bit about SABR, the Society of American Baseball Research. So, Mark, what questions do you have? I mean, do you want to start this off, or you want me to talk?
You mentioned earlier about the Burdick and awards, and Renata Galasso was brought up. I mean, that's really the thing I'd like to speak to is how Renata Galasso was a woman in New York City. She was the first one to put card sets together, and I didn't even realize she was a woman until a few years ago. I just didn't know,
Right.
So, those are the things that like SABR brings to light and helps educate people on. And here I am. I've been a champion of the Galossos, Greg, since you met me, and I love them, and I get them anytime I can. And when I was a kid, I used to send away to Galasso, and here I am all these years later, and it takes me to reading something on SABR that Renata Galasso was a woman. It's just how awesome that whole group is.
Well, I've been reading up a little bit on SABR myself the last couple of days, and I want to just kind of pick y'all's brains about how it's been an entity since 1971, and it looks like there's over 7,000 members now of SABR, and I always you hear sabermetrics and you hear the terms, and a lot of the analytics that are in baseball now are as a result of SABR. Now, what y'all, from our discussions, Jason and RJ, or Jason more so with the baseball card committee, y'all have had for the last 4 years now a baseball card section or committee of SABR, and kind of tell me how that got started a little bit, and what y'all do on on a day by day, or however often you meet, what that entails, I guess. What started it, and then what do y'all do with it at this point?
Yeah, fantastic. So first off, I'll say I joined in 2019, and within 5 months, right, I was kind of like a Kevin Moss. I guess I was a pretty hot rookie. So within 5 months, I became a co-chair, one of two co-chairs of the baseball cards committee, but in existence for a few years before I got there. So Mark Armour, who's our current president, and Chris Dial, who lives in Tennessee now, the two of them had been co-chairs, and then they handed it off to me and a gentleman named Nick Vosbrink in New Jersey. So we've been running it since mid-2019. I'd say there are two main things that we're known for at the moment, but we're actually about to expand. RJ may not even know this. We've added a pretty cool leadership team, and so we've got big plans. But kind of our main creative output is the SABR baseball cards blog, and we don't like people to think too hard, so it's saberbaseballcards.blog to find our stuff. And it's kind of like how for some research committees, people might submit articles to a journal. In our case, they just submit articles to our blog. And so you can go there anytime, you can read it. And some of the stuff is kind of researchy, like somebody figures out something that nobody knew about a set or a card. But some of it is just, hey, here are my fun memories of collecting 1972 tops back in the day, being a kid, riding my bike to the, drugstore and, coming home with a pack in my pocket. So, we take almost everything, I'll say, you got to be a member to write, but that's the main place where our creative output lives. But then on kind of a daily basis, we have a lot of fun on social media. So our Twitter site, which is just SABR BB Cards, we're kind of into the brevity thing there, SABR BB Cards, that's like 13,000, 12,000 followers, something like that. And it's just fun. It's a little bit educational, but I'd say it's more just humor and people sharing cool cards or cool things they know about cards. Facebook, we've got a private group called SABR Baseball Cards as well. So those are the kind of the main things that are going on at any particular time. But during COVID, we had a number of virtual events, and we're actually getting those going again. So for instance, there's a gentleman who just wrote a pretty definitive book on the 1949 Leaf baseball set. He's going to be a guest on an upcoming Zoom. I think we're still trying to figure out the date. We've got a programming team, I'll say now, 3 events vice chairs that just joined us, and they're going to be putting together cool stuff. And then one of the things that we've, I guess, fostered in certain chapters, right? Because SABR is a national organization, but we also, I'd say a lot of its life is at the local level. Like I'm in our Chicago chapter, for instance, and we get together and do things. So we fostered in some of the individual chapters, things like, baseball card groups where people get together over pizza and open cards, trade cards, talk about cards. So if it has to do with cards, we're into it. And for me, I've been involved a good 5 years now.
That's outstanding. And I guess that will lead me to my next question. And you've answered a couple of my questions on how to find you guys. So that's good. Do you notice most of your committees, I'm assuming, are people that are into vintage baseball cards, I would assume. Do you notice more younger people? Because that's one of the main concerns that people have with the hobby and the vintage side is, do you have younger people getting involved in this? What's your vetting process? Well, I'll get back to that. But to become a member of SABR, first of all, what's the vetting process? And do you see younger people getting involved with this, or does it kind of just gradually, as you get a little bit older, people start getting into SABR a little bit more?
Yeah, the vetting process is your check has to clear.
Okay.
No, seriously, we're not an exclusive group. That was my thought. I joined in 1998, and I thought you had to be a professional in the field to be a member. I was reading stuff.
That's what I've always thought too, RJ.
Yeah, no, you don't have to, but once you get involved, it's hard not to get hooked. You mentioned about the statistical research, which of course is a big part of what people do in SABR, but people bring anything in the universe of baseball is fair game. The Women in Baseball Committee just had a fantastic virtual annual convention, and Jason actually presented at that. It was Rachel Robinson this year, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah,
Jackie's wife.
Jackie's wife, yeah, and I one of my special interests is baseball players who did the vaudeville circuit in 1900s and 1910s. So anything's fair game as long as it's baseball related. But and you don't have to be a professional in the field, although many people are. So
yeah, Mark, I want to ask you about this because I know that you y'all were y'all the ones that were instrumental in getting all the Negro League statistics vetted and were you like public? I know there was a big thing with that a year or two ago where they were all like redone and they were officially recognized. Was that a result of SABR?
SABR members were instrumental in that, and many of them have served on the committees that inducted Negro League players into the Hall of Fame. So
Okay.
Yeah, SABR was a big part of that, and that's a fantastic story. How the process getting there, and it's still going on because we're discovering new records all the time that are being added to the statistical record. So
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I remember when that, that was a big story when that all broke and they were like officially recognized. And I think that's really neat that SABR has been able to do that. It seems like they've got their hands in a lot of the historical aspect of baseball. And I'm blown away because the research I've done with SABR the last couple of days, this would have been something I would have been interested in 30 years ago. I fancy myself kind of I wrote in college, I was always really, really into sports, and I'm seriously considering maybe joining myself because,
you should.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. So, and I'm not working, retired, so I got plenty of time. So this has been neat for me to read about just something I might consider contributing to a little bit going forward. So, Mark, what do you have any? You have any questions?
I got a question for RJ. RJ, my man. Well, fencing. Like, how did you get into fencing? You're in Iowa, I assume.
I was in Iowa. When I was going to college at Iowa State, I got into fencing. A friend of mine did it, and it looked fun. And then when I moved to Minneapolis, I got into it competitively. I was 30 years old when I started competing. Since this is a card show, I have my autographed Mariel Zagunis card. She autographed this for me at a 2010 coaching conference, but she was the first real gold medalist to come from the United States. She won the first ever women's gold medal in the Olympics in 2004, and then she repeated in 2008. So phenomenal athlete. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, but no, I just enjoyed it.
I'm watching it at the Olympics. I had a question. So, and my wife spent she was in Paris for the entire Olympics. So, is it really hot, like behind that? It looks the mask thing, because that looks like it's unbelievably hot.
It's not that bad once you get used to it. The heart, once you figure out, you have your own mask, and you can adjust it to sort of fit, and you can adjust the insides to breathe how you want it to breathe. It's not too bad once you get used to it.
Do you still do it, RJ, or are you still?
I do. I don't try to fence the teenagers anymore. I'm in my 60 to 69 age group, and that's about my speed right now.
But when you stick somebody, do you carry on and celebrate like they did at the Olympics and go crazy?
On the rare occasions when I get a really nice, sweet touch, it just comes out. I celebrate the really great spontaneous touches.
Excellent. So for real, but I think that's really neat. And that's what I like about this show and about people in general. And teaching where I teach in an alternative school, and we have so many different people and personalities. I just think it's really great, and I celebrate that. And when I saw that you were a fencer, I was like, man, that's freaking awesome. So and where are you now?
Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
You're in Carlisle. So I get up through there and I go up to Buffalo. So
you need to stop by.
Yeah, so we go through there a lot. My daughter loves Little League World Series. She does that every year, the production aspect for TV and all that. So she spends the whole. So when I come up, can we do a little fencing? Can we get together? I think that'd be great. I'd like to give it a go.
That out.
I think that'd be fun. You can just swat the crap out of me.
Hey guys, let me bring it back to.
So this summer, probably some point in the late spring in the summer, I'll be heading up that way. We'll have to get together. So thank you. And I mean that as all respect. I think that's awesome. And thank you for, and as an example, you are the keepers of the flame of the arts, of the mind of America, the mind of the world, because it's dull, it's dead, it's all this right here. What you guys do, that's keeping it alive. Fencing, right? Writing, thinking. It's the whole mindset. And those are the things that I'm into more so than, cardboard's great, but this, right, is a dying art. It's a lost art form, and you guys are helping to keep it alive. So I commend you and thank you for that. And thank you for spending time with us today.
Sure thing.
Guys,
Now,
I was
go
just
ahead,
going to
Jason.
say, yeah, if I could bring it back to baseball cards for a second.
Sure.
All right, 1982 Fleer, Stephen Carlton and Fisk. Are you guys
Oh,
with me? You know this card?
Yeah.
I have.
All right, we make a custom card of RJ. All right. On one hand, here he is writing his Luke Appling book. On the other, here he is fencing, and it just says RJ Lesch, Saber and Saber. SABRE. What do you think?
That's
The
beautiful.
win. I love it.
That's you need to commission that. That's
Yeah.
great. That's a great idea.
Would that be your rookie card, RJ?
It would be my rookie card.
Oh, I'm
I
in.
joke that if I were a hockey fan, I would be a Buffalo fan. So,
There you go.
Sabres.
Yeah, stuffer. Haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. So
The Sabres haven't made the playoffs in 14 years, Mark.
no, but they've won 3 in a row and they're back to 500. So God bless. Maybe this is the year.
And the season's a week old.
A week old, but usually they're out of it by now. So we have hope.
All right, now getting back to the Sabre baseball card committee, Jason, you guys have a Jefferson Burdick Award, and can you kind of explain what that is? How y'all, the process of how that comes about? It's a yearly award, and it's Jefferson Burdick's obviously for anybody that knows the hobby, really above a rudimentary level. Everybody knows that name. He was a god when I was a kid. So kind of explain to me how the Jefferson Burdick Award is, what it's all about, and how y'all arrive at decisions with that.
Yeah, fantastic. So like you say, I mean, Jefferson Burdick, that's an esteemed name in the hobby. For folks who haven't heard of him, if they've even heard of a card set we call T206, that name came from him, right? Pretty much all the old sets that have a letter and some numbers, that was his naming convention in the book he created called the American Card Catalog. So we think of him as kind of the grandfather or maybe the great-grandfather of the hobby at this point, or of collecting. If you're in New York, you can see highlights of his card collection at the Met. And so back in 2020, right? I mean, COVID, I think, was a great time for creativity and innovation. We thought at the card committee, maybe it would be cool to honor someone who's really contributed to the hobby and make this an annual award. A lot of other SABR committees had awards, but we didn't. And so Nick and I got together. We had a few other people, Mark included, who'd been pretty involved in the card committee, just kind of brainstorming ideas. And what came out of it were a couple of things. Number one, and this is a little bit controversial, I'm going to say, and it could change, one of these days, but we decided we wanted to honor somebody living. Right. So there'd even be the possibility of saying, hey, thank you for your contributions. Here's your trophy. Right. As opposed to, finding names from the past, even if they are very award worthy. So somebody living. The other thing we decided, and I don't think it took much debate at all, was to name it for Jefferson Burdick. So, its short name is the Burdick Award. The long name is the Sabre Jefferson Burdick Award for contributions to the hobby. And sometimes I'll say we go Sabre on you, which is to say we might choose somebody where you're like, wait, who is that exactly? Right? It may not be a household name to, 80% of collectors. Other times we go with somebody where everybody's like, oh, yeah, of course. Right. So, for instance, Jim Beckett's probably our most famous awardee. Everybody knows the Beckett. Our most recent, Dick Perez, who did the Diamond Kings. And as this card shows, one of the fun aspects of the award each year is Nick, who has some pretty cool design skills. I think that's evident here. Nick creates a special award baseball card, sort of in the style that the awardee is known for, something that really evokes that person. So Dick Perez, obviously, we went with kind of a Diamond King style. And Trading Card Database now catalogs our cards. And so, if you're collecting the set of Jefferson Burdick Award cards, we're in there. And our first was Mike Ehrenstein. And because you mentioned Renato Galasso, I will say one of my favorite sets as a kid, this is what introduced me to the all-time greats, was put out by Renato Galasso. Like if you bought a set of tops, you get 45 all-time greats cards. But what you'd see also on the back was a TCMA copyright line, meaning that TCMA collaborated. Well, what does that have to do with our award? Well, the MA in TCMA, Mike Ehrenstein, was our first award winner. So he was really the guy behind TCMA, SSPC, and even a lot of other hobby innovations like plastic sheets.
That's outstanding. SSPC is one of my favorite sets. I love that set.
I love the
yeah.
SPMA
It's
stuff.
so simple.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark. What you have any thoughts?
Living in the middle of nowhere, I didn't have a neighbor on either side of me for a mile, and it was like a half hour to the store. So, through the mail, I would get TCMA stuff all the time. And like I was saying about Renato Galazzo, that was my whole entryway into card collecting.
Yeah,
Could I say something about Renato Galasso, by the way?
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah, and maybe somebody in the audience, if they've got the right contacts, they can make a connection here. But anyways, I mentioned one of the criteria is that the person's alive, and so sometimes you think about, well, who do I want to nominate? Well, I thought Renato Galasso, but of course, the first question to solve is this person living or dead, right? And well, not only did I find that I think she's alive. But this kind of blew me away, guys. I'm 54. She's not that much older than me, right? She was a legendary name to me in the late 70s and early 80s as I'm picking up those all-time greats cards. But she was, I think, in college or something in 1974 when she launched the place. So, I'm 54. I think she's maybe 66 or 67. So, yeah, I mean, ideally, she could be one of our future award winners. But I will say, just in thinking about making that nomination and trying to track her down, I don't want to say she's reclusive, but I'll say, unlike a guy like Jim Beckett, she doesn't seem to be connected to the hobby anymore, meaning that I'm not sure that I could track her down to say, hey, would it be okay with you if we nominated you or gave you the award or something like that? So that's an action item for me because right around January or February, coming up 2025, we'll be ready for nominations once again.
Yeah, she from what I understand, she would sit in her apartment in Brooklyn and just sort sets. I don't know how that really worked because it seems like she sold a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that worked, but yeah, that was a big name for me too when I was a kid.
There were no factory sets. It was that if you wanted one, that's how you got it. So
yeah,
put it together yourself.
She was kind of like the first breaker, right?
Yeah,
open packs or vending boxes or whatever the heck she had, and then turn them in, and people that would sign up for the set break whole set, she'd send them the whole set. So she was definitely a pioneer in the hobby.
Outstanding. So if you want to make a nomination, you go. I encourage everybody to go on the SABR website because there's so many. I spent 2 hours yesterday just looking through the website. There's so much to read and to do. At the risk of this show running really long, why don't you guys give us some insight on, again, maybe reinforce how to get involved, where to find y'all. RJ, if you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with with SABR right now, make sure that you let us know when your book's coming out too, RJ.
When that happens, yes, I'll be crying from the rooftops there.
Absolutely.
No, but the first place to go for SABR would be the website, sabr.org, SABR.org. And that gets you to all of our committee pages, all of our and all of our publications and all of our regional chapters. I'm currently the chair of the Mathewson Plank chapter of Central Pennsylvania, and we actually just had our first in-person meeting since COVID a couple of weeks ago in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and where we had lunch at Gettysburg Eddie's, which is named after Eddie Plank, the Hall of Fame pitcher, who was from Gettysburg, obviously. But that would be the place to start. And then there's the different committees. Jason mentioned we have the blog as well as for the baseball card committee, but we also have a Facebook page, and many of the other committees and regional chapters also have Facebook pages. So if you were to go on Facebook and search anything's SABR, you'll probably find us somewhere.
Outstanding. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I'll add a couple things. So the first thing to know, and Greg, I'm going to save you some money. First month is $1 right now. We're running a postseason special. It's limited time, so you can't sit on it forever. But if you were to go to .org/join right now. You get your first month for $1. And I think if you found that you were underwhelmed, you just cancel and all it cost you was $1, right? Normally it's $65 a year. I think we have, special rates for students. I'm not sure if we have special rates for
I'm a student.
Are you a student? There you go. Okay. All right then. So yeah. So right. Yeah. Do it. So anyways, yeah, it's $1 right now. But I'll add also, this is the cool thing because we were talking a little bit earlier about for many people, their first time they've heard of SABR or sabermetrics, you think of people that maybe must have PhDs in statistics that are inventing complicated formulas, and you wonder like, well, what would they want with me? But yeah, it's definitely diversified. In fact, even when it was formed, sort of the numbers aspect of the game was just one of several pillars, right? But point being, literally, and I think this definitely covers all four of us, but it probably covers most of your audience, right? If you just wish that every now and then you could go to lunch and there'd be like 10 or 15 people around the table who would just want to, not just tolerate, but want to talk about baseball nonstop and stay 4 hours, like this is your club, right? That's what happens when I go to a Chicago chapter lunch. And the beauty of it is this, right? Especially this year in Chicago, people aren't too excited about the current teams, right? They're as happy to talk to you about the 1932 Cubs or the 1917 White Sox as they are to talk to you about, the 2024 or even 2016 Cubs. So it's pretty cool. Like you go there, you have a lot of fun, you get an education. And, for me, I wasn't the kind of person that loved to walk into a room and not know anybody and then try to figure out like, am I going to talk to somebody? But baseball is such a social lubricant. Like literally, when I went to my first chapter meeting lunch, I didn't know a soul, right? So, I just I could tell everybody had baseball caps, and the other hallmark of Sabre is either minor league or defunct major league team uniforms or federal league uniforms or Negro League, et cetera, right? So, you see somebody with Chicago Whales, you see somebody with like, South Bend Cubs or whatever. But, I just went and sat next to some people and I'm like, hey, what's your favorite team, right? Which sounds so dumb, right? But 4 hours later, we're still talking to each other and we've covered baseball cards. We've covered, growing up in the 70s and 80s and watching games. And yeah, so it's just, I'm going to say other than Sabre, I don't know where you're going to find a crew that you can just talk baseball nonstop for hours with. So the social aspects, right? S is for society, R is for research, and they're both really important. The social aspects are underrated. I think, we almost got a bad rap from oh, the game's so boring now. Nobody wants to steal a base,
With the analytics side, you mean? Yeah. I mean, they made some good rule changes though, I think, that are helping it. I saw a thing, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I saw a chart that basically said that the average length of the games now is back where it was in the late 70s, which I think baseball definitely needed. It was trending straight up, and then now it's come way down. So I think that's good. I think people are starting to tune baseball out a little bit. So there are some pros and cons to analytics. I wish that there were more complete games, honestly, but I don't think you'll see many 300 game winners anymore. But we can talk about that all some other time. But I'm a baseball nerd, Mark. I know that you're big into the literature. What you have any closing thoughts on this, Mark, or what's your?
Well, again, thank you to Jason.
Yeah.
And just an example, the youth of today, they're the future of the game. And if we can get them reading and involved, and the one thing that's nice about Sabre is that a lot of the stories are kind of shorter, a little lighter. You don't have to read the whole novel. And, because my daughter, Shasta, who helps us out extremely with the show, and, she's in sports, film and television. And she was saying yesterday, she's concerned for the future of baseball because, our young people into it as much as they used to be. And so through card collecting, through literature and things like that, we got to keep the kids involved in the game. And you guys are definitely do that. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is how the game is evolving. And yeah, I love the printed word, but for example, our vice president, Allison Levin, does a lot of great research on how baseball is using social media and how fans are engaging with the game in new ways through social media. And obviously, met you guys through social media, so obviously I have some appreciation for it. But the way a 20 or year old or a teenager would engage with the game is different from the way we used to engage with it when we were kids, and that's just going to be fascinating. I love the fact that people in SABR are looking at the future as well as the past. It's a fascinating organization in that regard.
Well, I'm fascinated. I tell you that. I like I said, I spent a couple hours looking through the website, and it's SABR.org for anybody who's interested. I mean, it was striking to me that it seems very accommodative, and like you guys have talked about. So, I'm going to try to devote some time, as much as I can devote, to maybe exploring a little bit more, and maybe even writing up an article about something that I don't see covered, and maybe y'all will let me do it, and I'll pay you my money and the check will clear. I promise.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been really cool. Hey puppy, what kind of
Snowflake? You're famous. You're famous.
Hey, buddy.
Papillon. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for having, was that a Papillon or what kind of dog you got?
This is Bichon Frise.
A Bichon Frise. All right. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. RJ Lesch gonna have a book coming out. Check them out when it does happen. If not, on SABR.org. Jason Schwartz, the same. SABR.org. These guys are awesome. We can't thank them enough for joining us today and taking their time. So, everybody have a great day. All the best.